Hello and welcome to Mr. Taofeek's Math and Econs channel. This channel was created to help you achieve excellence in your maths and economics exams. I am now answering question 31 to 40 of the detailed exam past question solutions for your UTME Economics. Before we start, I would like to mention that there are already videos on question 1 to question 30, and I recommend going through those videos before this one, because quite a number of concepts that we already explained in the past videos might occur here. So watching those before this would really help you. That's a strong recommendation from me. That said, let's get right into solving these questions. Okay, question number 31. We have more or less like a table, but it's not necessarily a table, but we can create the table. It should be something like this and like that. So more or less like something like that. Okay, so from the table above, calculates the elasticity of demand. This question is quite open-ended. It should calculate the price elasticity of demand. So when we talk about elasticity, I'll just start trying to break things down. Elasticity of demand. Remember, we're not just doing the questions here, we're also breaking down this concept so that you're not only able to answer these questions we're doing together, but you're also able to answer questions that are around this topic, essentially preparing you for excellence in your exams. When we talk about elasticity of demand, is basically the responsiveness, all right, the degree of responsiveness of quantity demanded to changes in price or income, or what price of related commodities. And that's why we have three types of elasticity of demand. We have the price elasticity of demand, which is called the PED, and this question is about the PED. Secondly, we have the income elasticity of demand, we can call that YED. And we have lastly the cross elasticity of demand, we call that the XED. So you can see the definition of elasticity of demand is basically how quantity demanded responds to what? To changes in price. That is the PED, or income, that is the YED, or what? Price of related commodities. Are we together? We will be basically, because of this question, we will be focusing on, of course, the PED. So anytime we come across other ones, we're going to explain them. So the PED itself, now let's zoom in on the PED, the price elasticity of demand. Let's zoom in on that. Now the PED, now price elasticity of demand. There are five types. Number one, that is the fairly elastic or elastic. Okay, fairly elastic or elastic demand. The next one is inelastic or fairly inelastic. The third one is unitary or unity. The fourth one is perfectly elastic, and the last one is perfectly inelastic. Okay, so now when we talk about elastic, this is when the coefficient, if you calculate your PED, the coefficient of your PED is greater than 1. Now remember that if you calculate your PED, expectedly you're supposed to have what? You're supposed to have a higher, what's it called now? You're supposed to have a negative value. Yes. Why do we have a negative value for our price elasticity of demand? Because the relationship between price and demand is a negative relationship. When price increases, quantity demanded reduces, and when price reduces, quantity demanded increases. Okay, so that's the situation. Because of that, PED is always negative, but whenever you are interpreting your answer, you don't consider the negative aspect. Let's say, for example, you calculated your PED and then you have a negative, maybe -2. So if you want to interpret your answer, you ignore the negative and just focus on these two, which means it is 2, which means it's greater than 1, and that is what? That is elastic. And by the way, the formula to work out your PED is just the percentage change in quantity demanded over the percentage change in price. And we're going to come to that for now once we get to this question. Okay, so PED is more than 1. All right, this simply means that when price changes a little, it just means that the numerator, which is percentage change in quantity demanded, is more than the denominator. So this means a little change in price leads to what? A greater change in quantity demanded. Okay, now inelastic demand, it means your PED is less than 1, 0 point something. Okay, 0 point something. and this one just means that a greater change in price leads to a what? A lead to change in quantity demanded. So I'm trying to simplify things, right? Now, what are the examples of elastic and inelastic demand? So elastic demand are very common with competitive products, goods that have a lot of substitute. For example, your Pepsi, your American Cola, your Coca-Cola, your Biggie Cola, and the likes. These goods have price, they have PED, that they have elastic demand. How do they have elastic demand? Because if prices of any of them changes by a little, it's going to hugely affect the quantity demanded, because consumers are very sensitive to price. If Pepsi increases, I don't know, I think a bottle of Pepsi now is 500. If they should increase it to 600, there's going to be a huge decline in their sales because there are so many other options, right? So you will see that when price changes a little, there's going to be a huge change in quantity demanded, okay? While inelastic demand, if there's a huge change in price, it's going to lead to a little change in quantity demanded because these goods are goods with less substitute or essential commodities, right? Okay? Examples of these are fuel. You know, fuel is arguably an inelastic demand because we're still going to buy fuel even if it's expensive because we need it for our daily commute, daily activities, the economy, you know, movement of goods, people, and everything. We need fuel, right? So petrol is inelastic in nature. Goods with very low, you know, substitute, like power supply, for example. Power supply comes from the distribution companies in Nigeria, the IKEDC, and so on and so forth. So if again you don't like, if they increase the price, you still have to buy eventually, because going for fuel using a generator might not be the best option. And of course, installing a solar panel to power a house at the rate at which the power supply from the distribution company powers the house, you're going to need a lot of investment. So it's inelastic in nature, because even if the price increased by a lot, the quantity demanded just reduces by a little, because there's so many people, there's so much need for these kinds of commodities. Okay, the unitary is when your PED is equal to 1. So this one just means a percentage change in quantity demanded leads to an equal percentage change in what? In your price. Sorry, when price changed by a certain percentage, then the quantity demanded also changed by that same percentage. Now, perfectly elastic, this one is when your PED is infinity, meaning that you cannot even adjust the price. The price has to be constant like that. Okay, this is very common with commodities in the profit market. For example, commodities that are homogeneous, like 5-10 people are selling the same thing, and if you increase your price, nobody's going to buy from you anymore. An example is like POS business, right? So you have, like, if you go on any street now in Lagos, you see lots of POS outlets. So there are like 10 on a street, for example, and you know that 5,000 naira attract a charge of 100 naira. So if somebody now say, oh, my charges is 110 naira, because of that 10 naira, she's not going to see anyone, or he or she's not going to see anyone patronize, you know, the POS because of that 10 naira difference. So don't even touch the price. That's perfectly elastic. You touch the price, you're done, right? Well, perfectly elastic is when your PED is equal to 0. This one means that no matter how price increase, we're just going to keep buying the same quantity that we're buying, right? We're not going to shift. An example of this is like pure water basically. Arguably, like, I know it's, you know, it's debatable, but just a close example that we can give is water. Assuming you drink 3 sachets of water, for example, 3 in a day, so for you to be okay, the minimum you have to take is 3 sachets of water. So water went from 10 naira per unit to like 100 naira for 3. So you used to spend 13 naira drinking 3 sachets of water. Today you are spending 100 naira to drink the same 3 sachets of water. You're likely to still keep buying that because you just have to drink water, right, to survive. So that's the point. So these are all the price elasticity of demand that you should know, and their meanings and their values, you know. And for their graphs, I'll just try to quickly draw them because I think we're spending far too much time on this, but I'm trying to break things down. Okay, so for the first one, which is the elastic demand, the demand curve is usually very shallow like this. So if you have a price P1, if you have P1 and Q1, so if price reduces by a very small amount, for example, if price changes by a little change in price, see, look at the effect on the quantity demanded. It's going to be huge. Look at the huge effect it has on the quantity demanded. Can you see that? So from Q1 to Q2, right? So price reduces from P1 to P2 by a very little amount. You can see the huge impact that has on the quantity. All right, so this is what we call, what's it called? Elastic demand. Then the second one is the inelastic demand. So the inelastic demand has a very slopey line, something like this, very slopey. Okay, so this is the initial price, initial quantity. So P1, Q1. So price reduces by so much. There's a huge change in price. You can see the gap, right? Look at the quantity. Quantity demanded only increased by a very small amount, right? So we know for sure the law of demand is lower price, higher quantity. But elasticity of demand is not trying to measure by how much is this quantity demanded going to respond to changes in price. That's just the meaning of PED. Okay, so a good is inelastic when huge change in price leads to a small change in quantity demanded, while a good is elastic when Small change in price leads to what? A huge change in quantity demanded. And this is going to lead me to explaining another important concept, which is the relationship of these with revenue. So when a company has a price elastic demand like this, where PD is more than 1, if they want to increase total revenue, of the business, what they have to do is to what? To reduce the price. Okay? When they reduce the price by a little, you can see they reduce the price by little amounts, right? This is the area that they lost. This is the loss. But look at the area that they gained. They gained so much area that was going to offset the loss they have. Okay, so they make more money by reducing their price. Okay, but if a company has a PED that is less than 1, which is inelastic, for them to increase their revenue, they have to what? They have to increase their price. Okay, price has to go up. Okay, so get this straight. Okay, this is about price and total revenue of businesses now. So businesses operating a perfect elastic demand, to increase their revenue, they have to reduce their price. Because if you reduce your price by a little, a lot of people will come to you. Imagine this is a POS outlet, and on a street you decide to take 50 naira for 5,000 naira. I can bet like nobody's going to go to any other place. They'll always come to you because of that 15 naira difference, right? Another example is a fuel station. You cannot imagine that because of 20 naira sometimes, 30 naira sometimes, people will leave 5-10 fuel stations just to go to a particular fuel station that sell at a lower price. For example, NNPC. Sometimes NNPC sells lower, and everybody wants to go to NNPC because of the 20 naira, 30 naira, 15 naira difference, right? This is the impact. When you have a competitive market, the way to beat and make more money, try and sell at a lower price. Everybody's going to come to you, especially when consumers are very price sensitive. So this is relating your elasticity of demand to total revenue, which is a very important concept. Okay. So that being said, yeah. So the diagram for unitary. So unitary, the third one, that one is just an equal amount of the demand is just about 45 degrees. So this changes almost the same thing. Okay. Price reduces by some amount, quantity increased by almost the same amount, right? P1, P2, Q1, Q2, something like that. Number 4, perfectly elastic. That one is like this. Perfectly elastic is like this, right? Where your PED is infinity. So this is the price. So no matter the quantity that is being bought, you cannot change the price. The price remains the same. Okay? Whether the quantity is 20, whether it is 100, whether it is 1 million, you cannot touch the price. Just leave it like that. Okay? An example is the POS business that I highlighted earlier. Finally, the last one, which is the perfectly inelastic, which I said no matter the price, quantity demanded remains the same. This is what it looks like. So this is the quantity demanded. So whether price is 10 naira or 15 naira or 100 naira, the price changes, but you still demand the same thing, just like your pure water. Like I said earlier, you have to take 3 sachets of water minimum in a day. So that means even if the price is 1 million for 3 sachets of water, you're going to buy it. But hopefully, we'll pray that Nigeria doesn't get to that point. Okay. All right. So that's that about that. I hope that's a very solid breakdown of PED. And yeah, now let's quickly go on to the calculation we want to do here, and then solve the remaining questions. So I know PED is a huge topic in economics. A lot of students sort of have problems with it, and that's why I've taken my time to excuse me, break things down on this topic. Okay, I hope that was helpful. All right. That said, let's get into solving this question. So the question says the PED, the price elasticity of demand. So we should work out the PED. So the question says the initial price, the quantity demanded, and then the new price, the quantity demanded. Okay, I think there is a problem with this question. The number one problem I've observed with this question is that this is not true. It is either this is a quantity elasticity of supply question, because when price reduces, the law of demand says quantity increases. So I'm just going to rewrite this. So I'm going to change this 16 to maybe let's say 30. So we might not get the answer here. That's fine. But the most important thing is the working out. So let's change this to 30. Quantity demanded is supposed to increase as price reduces. Okay. All right. So how do you solve this? This is the formula. Percentage change in quantity demanded over percentage change in price. So you need to work out your percentage change in quantity demanded. And that is basically something I call no. I call it what? No. What is no? No simply means new minus old, which is the first O, divided by old, which is the second O. So new quantity, take away old quantity. Okay. So percentage change in quantity demanded. Percentage change in quantity demanded. New quantity minus old quantity times 100 out of 1. So looking at this now, initial. This is the new. We can call this is the old. Excuse me. It should be the other way around that I meant. So the old price is 6. So this is the old and this is the new. Okay. So what is our new quantity? Our new quantity is 30. Take away our old quantity, which is 20, divided by the old. Okay. Don't forget that. Divide by the old times 100 over 1. So 30 minus 20 is 10 over 20 times 100. 0 cancels 0. 2 here 1. 2 in 100, that's 50. Right? So 50%. So percentage change in quantity demanded, according to what we're doing now, is 50. So percentage change in quantity demanded is 50. Now let's work out percentage change in price. So percentage change in price, the same thing, new. So new price take away the old price divided by the old price times 100 over 1. Our new price is 5. Take away the old price, which is what, 6, divided by the old price, which is 6 times 100 out of 1. So that will be 5 minus 6 minus 1 over 6 times 100 out of 1. So if you put that on your calculator, you should have your answer. So using my calculator, 100 divided by 6. So 100 divided by 6, that gives me 16.67. And because of this minus here, I'll have minus 16.67. So that's my percentage change in price. So finally, remember we said our PED is percentage change in quantity demanded. In this case, is 50% divided by percentage change in price, which is what, minus 16.67%. So just put that on your calculator. 50 divided by minus 6.67. So 50 divided by minus 16.67, and that gives us okay, 50, made a mistake there, 50 divided by minus 16, divided by, just do 16.67 here, so divided by 16.67, and that gives you 2.99. Let's just say that 2.99 approximately 3. So it will be minus 3. Remember, there's a negative in the numerator. So this is the answer. I know the answer is not here, of course, because the question has fault by itself. But yeah, this is it. So the answer is minus 3. So if they ask you to interpret this, you just have to ignore the minus and look at the number. The number is 3. So therefore, our what? It's an elastic demand. Okay, it's an elastic demand because the degree of responsiveness of price is more than what? The one quantity is more than the price. So this is elastic demand because you can see quantity changing by 50% because what? Price reduces by just 16.67%. So that's the answer to that. I hope that was helpful. Now let's jump right into the next one. One of the functions of money deposit banks. So one of the functions of money deposit banks in economic development is A, that it is a banker to the government. No. Provision of credit facilities. The formulation of monetary policy. No. Issuing of currency notes. No. So currency notes, basically A, C, and D are done by the central bank, and the answer is B. 33. One of the arguments against the practice of monopoly is A, merging of producer, B, competition, C, exploitation, D, non-government ownership. Is exploitation because monopoly are the only seller of the product. They can increase price, they can reduce quantity to bring about an increase in price of goods in the market. So yeah, that's the problem, exploitation of consumers. The next one, number 34. The main reason why countries engage in international trade is A, opportunity to earn high profits in trading, B, use of capital intensive method of production, C, difference in their endowments of economic resources, D, difference in population structure. The answer is C, difference in their endowments of economic resources. Yeah, so some things that are manufactured in China, the resources actually come from elsewhere, like Pakistan, like it comes from Russia, comes from Iran, comes from Africa, and so on and so forth. So some of the things manufactured in elsewhere in the world is the resources, because all these natural resources we have are quite different, so we need one another, and this is one of the main reasons why there is international trade. Number 35, this is about utility. What is utility? Utility is the satisfaction derived from the consumption of a commodity, right? You eat bread, you get satisfaction. That's utility. Okay, so the question here is now saying that on the table above, what is the value of X? So we have our quantity of milk taken, cup of milk taken, which is this. Then we have the total utility, and then we have the marginal utility. So remember, your marginal utility is basically change in total utility over change in what? The quantity taken, right? So they're asking for X. So what we know is that this is the first total utility, the same as the marginal utility. The next one is 24 minus 18. Change in this is what? 6. The increase there is 6 over change in this, which is 1, which is 6. The next one, 29 minus 24, which is 5. So 5 divided by the change here, which is 1. Then the next one now is, so X take away. So to find X take away 29. So the change in these points from 29 to X, the change here is X take away 29. And that change basically gave us what? That change basically gave us 3. As you can see, right? So that gives us 3. Divided by change in the quantity, change in the quantity consumed, which is still 1. So X minus 29 over 1 is still X minus 29, which is equal to 3. So X must be 3 plus 29, and X is 32. And the answer is A. I hope that's clear. It's just a change in marginal utility is changing total utility by changing quantity. So yeah. Number 36. From the table above, it can be inferred that there is diminishing returns to scale. No, this is about this is in production. Excess demand. No, we can tell. Diminishing marginal utility. Diminishing marginal productivity. No, diminishing marginal productivity again is in production. So diminishing marginal utility is in consumption, which is utility. And the law of diminishing marginal utility says that as more and more units of commodities is consumed, the marginal utility what falls progressively. Okay, as you can see, as you're consuming more, your total utility is increasing, but your extra satisfaction of consuming this is actually what is reducing. It's just like, you know, you are very, very hungry and then you go to, you know, that place or those places or the place, I don't know, whichever you call it, and you order for a plate of rice. So when you start to eat the first spoon, second spoon, third spoon, you know, over time you enjoy, you're like, yeah, rice, yeah, it's very interesting, the rice is very sweet, I'm enjoying it. Over time you start to get tired, right, as you consume more, so your utility starts to fall. Basically your marginal utility starts to fall, and that is what that's the meaning of diminishing marginal utility. Number 37. A well-conducted census is important for A, economic planning, B, providing economic opportunities in rural areas, C, distribution of educational materials in cities, D, revenue generation. The answer is A, economic planning. So with accurate census of a number of people in the country, we can definitely know how many people we have, what are the policies we can make, and so many other benefits that can come from that. So the answer is A. And I want to argue that you know, providing economic opportunities. Well, yeah, but that's not really the primary importance of census. Economic planning, from government spending to government revenue generation to allocation of budgets, census has a lot of impact on that. Number 38, the cost saving advantages which if a large firm can achieve on its own is basically internal economies of scale. Okay, economies of scale is basically a business. EOS, economies of scale, is basically when a business enjoys lower average costs due to higher outputs. Okay, and there are two types of it: internal economies of scale and what? External economies of scale. So internal economies of scale examples are financial economies, marketing economies, managerial economies, technical economies, and so on and so forth, right? So these are the benefits a firm enjoys within itself for producing in large quantities. The likes of Dangote Cement, you can argue, has enormous economies of scale, internal economies of scale, because they produce in large quantity, they hire the best people, best technology, they get the best loans because they have the reputation, they can get loans at cheaper rates than any other person. So yeah, while external economies of scale is basically the cost saving advantages a firm enjoy as the industry that they are in grows. When the industry grows, they start to enjoy what? They start to enjoy some benefit. Okay, for example, if you are in an industrial area, you definitely have access to skilled labor, access to basic amenities and good infrastructure, because industrial areas are usually places of priority for the government. So a firm in that area will definitely enjoy good infrastructure, which of course will reduce their cost of production overall. So the answer is not B. Diseconomies of scale is the opposite of economies of scale. So, but here we're talking about cost saving. So diseconomies of scale start coming when the government is now, when the firm is now having increase in cost as the output increases due to bureaucracy, mismanagement. You know, bigger firms are more difficult to manage. So yeah, so the answer is internal, because we're looking at the firm achieving this on its own. If it's about the industry, then it's external economies of scale. Okay, while diseconomies of scale is the opposite. Number 39, a country uses a foreign exchange control measure to eliminate balance of payment deficit. Before I even start anything, balance of payments is basically a document showing the total import and export of a country, the value of total import and export of a country with the rest of the world. Okay, when we talk about balance of payment deficit simply means that the value of your imports is more than what the value of your exports, while we have balance of payment surplus, which is the value of your imports is less than what the value of your exports. I mean, every country wants to be on the surplus side, because on the surplus side means you're making more money than they are taking from you, while the deficit means you're spending more money than you're making from others, right? So how will the government now use the foreign exchange to control, to eliminate this balance of payment deficit, this excessive importation of things? So A, limiting our imports to its currency value of export. B, limiting our export to currency value of import. C, overvaluing country's currency. D, reducing the nation's domestic price level. So let's start to cancel our answers. Like reducing the nation's domestic price level. No, that's not an answer, because if things are cheaper, okay, reducing the nation's domestic price level, so you are reducing the prices of things manufactured within the country, which also means that you will essentially make things that are being exported to also be cheaper, whereas you are still importing. So this is not actually going to reduce your importation. It can just increase your exportation, but not necessarily bringing in more exportation that beats importation. Overvaluing the country's currency. Overvaluing your country currency simply means that you're going to make export even more expensive, right? So when your currency is stronger, those that are abroad that wants to buy things from your country, we have to spend more money to buy those things. So export is more expensive, which is not good, because if export is more expensive, it just means that you're not going to be selling as much to the rest of the world. B, limiting our export to its currency value of import. So you're limiting your export. You don't even want to limit your export in the first place, because limiting your export basically doesn't help you control your deficit. So that's not an answer. And definitely the answer would be A. So limiting our import to its currency value of export. So we're placing a what's it called now? A quota on our importation, limiting it to what the total value of export. So if I'm exporting 50 billion, then I want to only import 50 billion, sort of having a balanced balance of payments instead of having a deficit. Okay, so the answer is A. And then the last one, finally, question 40, the role of IBRD as an international institution is to, so IBRD means International Bank for Reconstruction and Development. The role is to A, improve training among member nations. No, this is the work of the WTO, finance private businesses in member nations. Really, that is more or less like the IFC kind of thing, but not necessarily as well. Then facilitate the development of infrastructure in member nations. Yes, that's the answer. D, solve problems of balance of payments for member nations. Not really. That's also something like the IMF would do, right? So the answer here is C. Now we've come to this end of this lengthy explanation. Remember, we said simplified solutions. Very importantly, that's what we're trying to do, and explanations to help you gain excellence across questions, not just the one we're doing, but deep understanding of what this is all about, which is helping you ace your economics exams. Thank you for watching. Make sure you share this with your friends, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.